It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler. It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler.
Hey guys, Tyler here. This is part 2 of me fact-checking the debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. If you guys want to see part 1, by all means go to this video right here. And so without further hesitation, let us begin.
Have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas. I guess some good, some bad, but it makes no difference.
When it comes down to the claim that Donald Trump has Project 2025 as part of his official policy, we can find truth somewhere directly in the middle. And what exactly do I mean by that? First and foremost, we have to recognize when it comes down to the history of Donald Trump, he is very much friendly towards an organization that is known as the Heritage Foundation.
The critical job of institutions such as Heritage is to lay the groundwork, and Heritage does such an incredible job at that. This is a great group, and they're going to lay the groundwork and detail plans for exactly what our movement will do and what your movement will do when the American people give us a colossal mandate to save America. And that's coming. That's coming.
More recently, there was an interview that was done directly by CNN in which one of the former directors of Project 2025 has mentioned that there were many key members of the Trump administration that was also working directly in the project.
You know, the breaking news is Trump has nothing to do with Project 2025. Sure, a lot of us have worked in the admin and came together, but this started long before he even announced for president. It was really a coming together of the conservative movement, and I think that's what's been so threatening to the left. You know, our side's always been prone to infighting, and what we were able to do here was bring together 110 groups and really lay out a common sense plan. You know, not everyone agrees in what's in that book, but the book's only actually part of the plan. And what we did was really invite people from all over the country to get back into their government.
Additionally, there was a book directly from the Heritage Foundation that was known as Don's Early Life, Taking Back Washington to Save America. And the foreword of that particular book was written directly by J.D. Vance, the vice president nomination for Donald Trump. One final major point is that according to Project 2025, it says right here, as we've been saying for more than 2 years now, Project 2025 does not speak for any candidate or campaign. We are a correlation of more than 110 conservative groups advocating policies and personal recommendations for the next conservative president. When I said earlier that the truth lies somewhere in the middle, here's exactly what I meant. It is true that J.D. Vance is actually directly connected to the Heritage Foundation. That is true. It is also true that Donald Trump is very friendly with the Heritage Foundation. It is also true that many Trump administration members was also behind 2025. That being said, although there seems to be an overlap between Project 2025 and Donald Trump, he also publicly has stated that he does not support the ideas of Project 2025. On his website, he promotes something that is known as Agenda 47, and you cannot find Project 2025 anywhere on the website.
She was big on defund the police.
Based upon what I found, there is some footage that actually suggests that Kamala Harris is in fact sympathetic to the ideas of the Defund the Police movement. And so without further hesitation, let's see that particular footage right here.
And then also, again, what we need to do about demilitarizing our schools and taking police officers out of schools. The status quo thinking has been to believe that by putting more police on the street, you're going to have more safety. And that's just wrong.
Does that mean you support proposals like what we've seen in Los Angeles, Mayor Eric Garcetti saying, take some of the money from policing, about $150 million?
I applaud Eric Garcetti for doing what he's done. It is outdated, it is wrong-headed thinking to think that the only way you're going to get communities to be safe is to put more police officers on the street. We have to reimagine public safety and how we do public safety in our country.
One local radio show asked then-Senator Kamala Harris where she stood on the Defund the Police movement.
Defund the police The issue behind it is that we need to reimagine how we are creating safety. And when you have many cities that have 1/3 of their entire city budget focused on policing, we know that is not the smart way and the best way or the right way to achieve safety. This whole movement is about rightly saying we need to take a look at these budgets and figure out whether it reflects the right priorities. For too long, the status quo thinking has been you get more safety by putting more cops on the street. Well, that's wrong.
There are two major thoughts on the whole entire defund the police movement. The first major thought is that basically we need to use money for other resources and actually cut the budget for the police and actually focus on those things. And the opposite reaction to the whole entire defund the police movement is that if we were to defund the police, the crime would actually go up. And so depending upon your political thought, that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Well, I will tell you, I agreed with President Biden's decision to pull out of Afghanistan. 4 presidents said they would, and Joe Biden did. And as a result, America's taxpayers are not paying the $300 million a day we were paying for that endless war. And as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty.
For this claim, let's see the reaction of our military members.
There is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world the first time this century. What? But let's understand.
So where the fuck are we right now?
I find it so hilarious that she claimed that there are no military personnel that are deployed, yet the military personnel show her the exact opposite effect in their video reaction. That is perfect.
We're not taking anybody's guns away, so stop with the continuous lying about this.
When it comes down to the issue of guns, there are plenty of footage in which Kamala Harris actually advocate for the confiscation of guns from a buyback program. So let's see the footage directly right here.
We have to have a buyback program, and I support a mandatory buyback program. It's got to be smart. We got to do it the right way.
Do you believe in the mandatory buyback of quote-unquote assault weapons?
I do believe that we need to do buyback.
There are two major political reactions to this particular issue, like with the case of defunding the police. The first political reaction from somebody in favor of gun control can actually say, well, you see, confiscation of guns is not the exact same thing as taking all guns, but someone against the ideas of gun control can actually say, well, you see, if you give someone an inch, they will take a mile. And so depending on how you feel on this particular issue, you say it's actually a positive thing or a negative thing.
She's a Marxist. Everybody knows she's a Marxist. Her father's a Marxist professor in economics, and he taught her well.
For us to truly know that Kamala Harris' dad was actually a Marxist, let's listen to this AI reading of an article that was done directly by Snopes.
Starting with Pho, we found her biography on the website of one of her previous employers, the German think tank Das Progressive Zentrum, which described her focus on issues in the field of democratization of the economy in post-Keynesian economics in times of financialization dynamics. This detail is important because Donald J. Harris, a professor of economics at Stanford University, also did his research from a post-Keynesian perspective. Fowey was noting his line of inquiry admiringly. Keynesians stipulate that markets alone cannot ensure full employment and instead advocate for government intervention. Post-Keynesians agree, but argue that in intervening, the government should focus on equality and redistribution of wealth. The post-Keynesian school of economics finds its roots in the general theory of employment, interest, and money, a 1936 book by economist John Maynard Keynes. In his book, Keynes attacked classical economics, which was the orthodoxy, that is the mainstream, of the time. Keynes's main argument was that, contrary to classical economics assumption, markets alone would never ensure full employment because employment depends on demand. That is, the amount of money people and companies spend on available goods and services. He said that the psychology of markets was too volatile to manage. Instead, Keynes advocated for government intervention to stabilize the economy. For example, his recommendation for getting out of the 1930s Great Depression was that governments should simultaneously spend more and cut taxes. From Keynes, 3 schools of thought emerged: Neo-Keynesians, New Keynesians, and Post-Keynesians. Neo-Keynesianism supporters who focus on growth and stability rather than full employment were the mainstream, or the orthodoxy, in the 1950s and 1960s. In the 1980s and 1990s, New Keynesians took the spotlight. New Keynesians argued that due to the fact that prices and wages are rigid, they don't move easily as other schools of thought assume they do. Unemployment and monetary policy, interest rates and money supply, have a much larger impact on demand. Post-Keynesianism, which also evolved from Keynesianism, is in the heterodoxy, outside of the mainstream. Like Keynesianism, it assumes that markets alone cannot ensure full employment and that the government must stimulate demand. But to post-Keynesians, the dimension of equality, classes, and economic power is very important. Therefore, they are very concerned with distribution of income, how a country's wealth is distributed among its inhabitants. The title of Harris' 1978 book, Capital Accumulation and Income Distribution, illustrates this concern. Harris was also preoccupied with exploitation and other concepts that came directly from Karl Marx's theory of capital. For example, The Economist recounts that he once argued that the inequality that beset black people in the U.S. did not come from a form of colonial rule where white people dominate. Instead, he argued that the problem was capitalism. In this sense, Harris was indeed Marxist in his thinking. In fact, a 2019 paper in Elgar Online argued that Marx should not be considered as an early post-Keynesian, but rather as an important forerunner of modern post-Keynesianism, with certain similarities, but also some important differences in several areas of compatibility.
You were tasked by President Biden with getting to the root causes of migration from Central America. We know that illegal border crossings reached a record high in the Biden administration. This past June, President Biden imposed tough new asylum restrictions. We know the numbers since then have dropped significantly. But my question to you tonight is, why did the administration wait until 6 months before the election to act? And would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. And let me say that the United States Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill which I supported. And that bill would have put 1,500 more border agents on the border to help those folks who are working there right now overtime trying to do their job. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States. I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country. That bill would have put more resources to allow us to prosecute transnational criminal organizations for trafficking in guns, drugs, and human beings. But you know what happened to that bill? Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress, and said, kill the bill. And you know why? Because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem.
To better understand the context about the immigration bill, let's look at the data about what exactly the spending was about on that particular issue. The immigration bill had a budget about $118 billion. Now, $2.4 billion went towards the Red Sea conflicts, about $4.8 billion went towards the Indo-Pacific, about $10 million went towards Gaza, about $14.1 million towards Israel, about $20.2 million towards the U.S. border security, and about $60.1 billion towards Ukraine. As you guys saw directly from the data, most of the money in that particular bill was actually aiding foreign countries with the wars and not necessarily using most of the money towards the border. Now, when it came down to the issue about Donald Trump not wanting the bill, that is also true as well. He says right here, only a full or radical left Democrats would vote for this horrendous border bill, which only gives shutdown authority after 5,000 encounters a day. When we can already have the right to close the border now, which must be done, this bill is a great gift to the Democrats and a death wish for the Republican Party. It takes the horrible job the Democrats have done on immigration and the border, absolves them, and puts them all squarely on the shoulders of Republicans. If most of the money that is being used is actually used for foreign conflicts, how exactly can we call it a border bill?
And understand what has been happening under Donald Trump's abortion bans. Couples who pray and dream of having a family are being denied IVF treatments.
On the issue of IVF, Donald Trump is not against it whatsoever. In fact, more recently this year, he has stated in his campaign that he's actually in favor of government-assisted IVF treatment for women or towards like the insurance companies.
And under the Trump administration, your government will pay for, or your insurance company will be mandated to pay for, all costs associated with IVF treatment, fertilization for women.
On the issue of abortion, Donald Trump said himself that he's not necessarily in favor of a federal ban of abortion.
The Republicans feel disappointed about your statement on abortion.
He also has stated that he wants abortion to be a state rights issue and not necessarily a federal issue.
This 50-year battle over Roe v. Wade took it out of the federal hands and brought it into the hearts, minds, and vote of the people in each state. It was really something. Now it's up to the states to do the right thing.
My final point is that he also has stated that for cases of rape and incest, as well as the endangerment of the mother, he's actually in favor of abortion in those particular cases.
Like Ronald Reagan, I am strongly in favor of exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother.
In short, I don't think it's actually fair to characterize his position as basically an abortion ban. He himself is not necessarily in favor of a natural abortion ban, and he also states that abortion should be left up to the state. Wanting to put abortion to the states is not the exact same thing as saying that I want to ban abortion. But anyway, what do you guys think about my fact checks? Tell me in the comment section down below. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next video.